I won't take up a lot of time. We have a great panel that's going to be talking about this, who is much more knowledgeable than I'll ever be. But there's a lot of questions I get regarding Washington Township specifically. And I think now's the time to get those stats out. In the past, overdoses were somewhat rare. I mean, we just didn't hear about them. And when we did, it was a major event. But unfortunately, they become so commonplace that we don't hear about them anymore. It's like another squad call. In 2017, we had 10 opioid overdoses in Washington Township. We had other ones from marijuana, alcohol, and other prescription and over-the-counter drugs, but heroin alone, we had 10. Those are the ones we know about. Trust me, people take other people to the hospitals, whatever. Those are the ones that police department and the rescue squad were called to. 7 were saved through the use of Narcan and the training of the officers received. 3, unfortunately, did not. These are record numbers, and thank God we have Narcan and the training that we have, or else the death toll would have been much higher. In 2018, we've already administered 4 doses of Narcan, 2 saves, 1 death. One of those saves had 2 doses administered to them. So unfortunately, we're on track as we were last year, and we're trying to make a difference, and we're trying to stop it. And I listened, it's not just us, it's the towns around us, all the counties, everybody's fighting this at the same time. So we all have to get on board. And it isn't just the victims of addiction who are affected. Right now, we have a problem affecting first responders as well, both physically and mentally. Physically through exposure, and mentally through the constant stress of trying to deal with the problem and the tragedy and loss that often accompanies it. We've been forced to put protocol into place regarding officer exposure when they go to these calls now. Additional safety measures, additional ways to protect them, because officers are falling ill from exposure going to overdose calls. Stigma-free. Washington Township is a designated stigma-free community. We have a stigma-free resolution, and if you go to our website, you'll see the stigma-free icon. There's a lot of resources, great reference material on that. We have a stigma-free task force. But what does that mean? It means that we want to help people struggling with addiction and mental health issues without judgment. But let's be clear, stigma does exist, and it's our jobs to stop that through things like this, through forums, through information, through sharing. How do we overcome the fear of the unknown? I'll tell you, we talk about it. We get it out there, and we make things better. Your coming here says that you want to learn and be aware, and this is the first step. Prescription drugs and opioids are all around us, provided to our families with little or no oversight. This is where 80% of addictions occur, where they begin. In the past, I admit, I looked at opioids as just being a street drug that I arrested people for, being a road guy, and put them away. But, you know, I tell a quick story. About a year and a half ago, my officers were on a stop on Mountain Ave in Hackettstown behind the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Young man, 27 years old. Probably around midnight. My 2 officers are going through the car, car's littered with hundreds of empty glassine packets. Hundreds. I've never seen so many. He's at the front of the car, he's upset. I'm talking to him while my officers go through, doing their job, all like that. And I start saying, what happened? What happened? He goes, when I was in high school, right here in West Morris, he goes, I had a severe leg break. Severe. So bad that it took him months to recover, of pain, of rehab. That was the point where he was introduced to prescription painkillers. He started doctor jumping. He started doing whatever he could to get prescriptions. When that didn't work anymore, he went to street drugs. He did not go out and just try heroin just to have a good time. This is the problem, and this is what we need to address. This kid was working 16 hours a day to support his girlfriend and his baby and his addiction, 15 bags a day. So this is the kind of thing we need to address, the kind of people we need to make better. Good kid, hardworking kid, just needs someone. So fortunately, we were able to get him get him down to Alton. We referred him to there. We tried to get some other resources to him, and you know, my prayers are with him. I hope he's doing better. So I hope that we can take something, everybody here, beneficial away tonight. And though I could talk about this forever, our presenters will cover a lot more of this. But we need to stop avoiding the issue and take it head on. Use and read your reference packets. They contain a vast amount of valuable information, and remember also that we have a drug drop-off at headquarters, available 24/7. Just come in, my officers will meet you, we'll get rid of it. Get rid of them before the kids get them, before someone else gets them, before your kids' friends come to your house and get them. We have Knockout Opioid Day. I wanted to remind you of that, October 6th this year. There's a table in the back explaining that more. But again, thank you. And please, if you need any assistance, advice, questions, directions, the vent, anything like that, the department, my office, everything is always open. Come to us with your questions. Come to us with your concerns, because we want to make this better, and we want to do the right thing by everybody in town. So without further delay, you've heard enough from me. I'd like to introduce Prosecutor Fred Knapp. Prosecutor Knapp.
Fine.
Thank you.
That's fine. Thanks, Chief.
I
Thanks very
appreciate it.
much for inviting us here tonight. I talked to Chief Assistant Brad Seabury, who will do the bulk of the presentation tonight. It's about a 45-minute presentation. And I asked Brad, how many times have you done this? And I've been with him many, many times, not all of them, but he told me somewhere around 150 presentations he's done. And I've probably been to close to half, I guess. Alton's been to many. Sheriff's usually there. So we've been all over. We've been all over Morris County. This past Sunday, we presented at a church in Harding Township. We'll be doing a presentation for the New Jersey Association of Counties at their annual conference in Atlantic City next month. And we've spoken to the League of Municipalities. Some of the elected officials might have heard our presentation before. But what you're going to hear tonight is going to be disturbing to you, and it should be. This is an epidemic that has hit New Jersey. It's hit the entire country. Opioids and heroin are killing people daily. The statistics are just staggering. Approximately 170 people in the United States are dying every day from drug overdoses. Imagine that. Last year, in 2017, nationally, approximately 64,000 Americans died of overdoses. Now, just to put that into perspective, I'm dating myself. Everybody remember the Vietnam War. 59,000 Americans died during the Vietnam War, which took, I believe, over 13 years. Yet last year, we had 64,000 Americans die from overdoses. I don't see people marching in the streets like they did to end the Vietnam War. This is a war. Whether you want to accept it or not, this is a war. People are dying every day. So people ask, well, what is the prosecutor's office doing? You'll hear about the sheriff's office, you'll hear about Morris Cares, but what's the prosecutor's office doing? We're doing three things. One is traditional law enforcement interdiction, arresting drug dealers. Our targets are for-profit drug dealers. Not the users, but the people who are selling heroin, opioids, cocaine, you name it, all of the illegal substances, and trying to get that under control as best we can. That's the traditional law enforcement function. But what we have learned, painfully we have learned in this state and throughout the country, is that, you'll hear this term a lot, we can't arrest our way out of this problem. Simply locking people up and putting them in jail is not going to help this problem. It's simply not, because there's an endless supply. You'll hear about fentanyl, which is being sent to this country from China. Opioids, which are sold as prescription medications, and of course heroin. All of them are deadly. These are deadly poisons that are killing people daily. So we are targeting the dealers who are selling this to your children, your friends, your family members, your neighbors. Second, we're doing educational programs like this one. For approximately the last 4 years, poor Brad Seabury's been out night and day, weekends, you name it, getting the word out. The sheriff's been out. The sheriff has Hope One, a great innovation, going out, and you'll see it later on. If you go outside, you'll hear about it. Great program to get people into treatment. Alton Robinson from CARES, getting people treatment, getting people the necessary tools to get them on the road to recovery, to end addiction. Number 3 is what we call Narcan 2.0. Now, you've heard a little bit about Narcan. What is Narcan? Narcan is a drug that is harmless to anyone. If you use it, you won't get harmed at all. What it does is, it is an antidote, if you will, or an interrupter to addiction from opioids. I read that in the newspaper yesterday, and it's really not an antidote. It's an interrupter, because what it does is it temporarily unlocks the connection in the brain that causes overdoses. What happens when someone is suffering from an overdose, they stop breathing. And what the Narcan does, it unlocks that connection in the brain so the person can start breathing again, but on a temporary basis, because as long as those narcotics are in their system, once the Narcan wears off in a couple of hours, they will then go back into it. So the key is, in Narcan 2.0, when the Narcan is administered by anyone in law enforcement in Morris County, the police officers who do the administration must contact a peer recovery specialist from Morris Cares, and Alton is the chief peer recovery specialist. These are folks who have been trained in a very extensive program. They have formerly suffered from addiction themselves, and they're there to help people on the road to recovery. So instead of somebody just being revived by Narcan and getting up and leaving to score more drugs, we have the folks from CARES coming out and meeting with them, getting them information, getting them help, so they don't have to go to score drugs again. So those are three main focuses of our goal here. And what we're trying to achieve is awareness. Awareness that addiction is a disease. I am currently the president of the County Prosecutors Association of New Jersey. All 21 county prosecutors belong. I'm the president for this year. And not only that, but all the county prosecutors are in agreement that this is how this epidemic has to be treated. Brad and I have recently been asked by the National District Attorneys Association to participate in a national task force to fight this epidemic. And we are working on that nationally right now to give a presentation to the United States Congress. So we're all on board in law enforcement. We hope that you'll be on board to know about this. And people in the audience, I'll echo what Chief Almer said. People say, well, what can I do about this? You know, what can I do? Well, one thing you can do is, this coming Saturday, April 28th, is Operation Take Back, which is sponsored by the Drug Enforcement Administration and your local police departments, as well as the prosecutor's office and the sheriff's office. There are collection sites where people can bring their unneeded, unused drugs of any kind, whether they're opioids, whether they're over-the-counter drugs, whatever they are. If you want them out of your home so they can't be subject to being abused, you can bring them to the police department where you have a drop box. Or if you don't live in this town, let's say, for example, you live in Randolph, where I live, at the Acme supermarket in Randolph between 10 and 2, there'll be a facility there to collect the items. In Morris Plains at the Stop and Shop, and also in Hanover Township at the ShopRite. Those are three locations that we're partnering with, and we've done the last 4 years. There are other locations. If you have any question, if you don't live in any of these towns, you can check our website. There's a link on our website to where drop boxes are located. Drop box looks like a little mailbox. You'll see one in Brad's presentation. Whatever you have, you can put in there. It is safe. It will then be collected and destroyed safely. Don't flush it down the toilet, because that gets in the groundwater. Don't throw it in your garbage, because people will dumpster dive. People will go through your garbage. Another problem we had, realtors were telling us. People were going to open houses at homes, and what they would do is immediately go into the bathroom, into the medicine chest, looking for opioids. So what we're telling people, and we've told people for several years now, if you're working with a realtor, selling your home, get that all out. Get it out of there. So it's not obtained by people who are going to abuse it. So those are some of the things we're doing. As the chief said, we'll be here to answer questions later. I don't want to take away any more time from Brad Seabury. He's got a terrific presentation, and I'll turn it over to Brad at this time. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Prosecutor.